Hi everybody, it's Precious Pioneer and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I had been an expat in Spain for almost a year and a half, and I feel like there are some things that I just really wish that I would have known before I went out and made the venture. I know that there are so many videos about people reflecting and sharing their own experiences, and so I tried to find ones that are a little bit different, but from my own perspective, coming from the States, these are some of the things that if I knew these things, I feel like I would have come a little bit more prepared, but at the same time, I feel like forming your own opinions in a new country and discovering things for yourself is also part of the journey when you're traveling and exploring the world. But without further ado, these are my top 8 things that I wish I knew before I went to Spain. Okay, going into number 1 is Spanish time. That is definitely 100% a real thing. The transition from coming from American culture where we are very much go, 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 go type of culture, and that is how we live our day-to-days, and time is money. It is very different, if not the opposite, in Spain. Everything is at a slower pace, whether that be the service at a restaurant or trying to get your Wi-Fi installed. It's not as easy as a quick call to get service. It may take a week or 2 days, and that's just kind of how things go. Like, it's a very much take it easy, very slow pace of life, and so that's something that takes a little bit of getting used to. I see that some of the biggest advice that people give you is patience. The way that I understood it at first, it used to bother me because, you know, you're adjusting to a new culture. However, it's like you cannot convince an entire nation to speed up with you. However, you can take a few breaths and slow down with the people to really understand them and understand their culture a little bit better. So Spanish time is definitely something to get used to, but it's really quite beautiful once you get used to it. Number two is probably a struggle for a lot of people when they first move here, is eating time. The eating time in Spain is vastly different. Like, I knew before I went there, went to Spain, that of the cliches of like, okay, there's a siesta there, they take a long lunch break, okay, no worries. But actually, the siesta there is from 2 to 6, where the restaurant is closed, you cannot get any food. It is quite difficult to have a late lunch or an early dinner because restaurants are just closed, so that's something definitely keep in mind. That being said, people usually start their dinner really late at 11, and so I think, like, how do Spanish people eat? I guess they have something really light in the morning. Breakfast is not a big part of the culture there as it is here in the US, where breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So if you struggle with that, it's something to consider. Spanish breakfast is usually really light, maybe a small little sandwich or maybe a cup of coffee and a churro or a croissant, and then that's it, you know? And then the lunch is where you have a big meal, and that's why they designate the hours to go home, have the big meal, and then you have maybe a little nap afterward, and then you go back to work and finish out the rest of your day. And then dinner, before dinner, there's the tapas, where you can have like a little snack, you know, maybe some olives, some crackers, a little sandwich again, or whatever. And then dinner, you have something light, maybe pan con tomate or something other than that. That's why it's a little bit later. And so this is kind of the Spanish meal set, but getting used to that is really difficult, because normally, you know, the American meals are like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a big breakfast maybe. We maybe have dinner after work, which is like 6 or 7. It's gonna be very difficult in Spain, so adjust accordingly. Number 3 is interesting. The whole coffee experience is quite unique in Spain. I would just forget about the latte macchiato, like any Starbucks order that you have from the States, just delete it and kind of learn the drinking culture here in Spain. I would say that café con leche is like the designated drink here in Spain, because you have that for breakfast, after every meal almost, kind of as like the dessert. Like afterward, you'll have probably like a coffee and then maybe a little snack or something. Like café con leche is basically a little bit weaker than an espresso, maybe like with a little bit more water, and then it has serving of milk as well. So it comes in a little cup like this. I'll leave a card right here of like all the designated, like the menu items that you can get here in Spain when you order a coffee. So if you want like an espresso, that would be a café solo, and then you can do a little shot of just that. But if you like a little bit of cream or a little bit of milk in your café solo or in your espresso shot, then that would be a cortado. You would ask for a cortado. Maybe if you want like a double espresso, okay, café doble, like you want like 2 of them, that's it. One that's really interesting in the mornings, there are sometimes people really like this after dinner or something, is a carajillo, which is like a little espresso shot with a pour of whiskey or brandy or Baileys or Irish cream or whatever you want, like basically a little shot of alcohol with your coffee, which I think is, you know, a little bit interesting. You can have a little carajillo for breakfast and then feel a little bit uplifted in the spirits, if you know what I mean. If you want the standard like American coffee, I guess, I would say it would be like the Cafe Americano, which is like a watered down version. So basically it's just an espresso with hot water, and then it's like the watered down version of like what we would normally have. Perdona, my pronunciation isn't the best, but it's like a descafeinado, which is like your decaf coffee. But be careful, when you order it in Spain, you want the descafeinado de máquina, like the machine one, because they actually will grind the beans and make you a fresh decaf coffee. If not, then they'll just put like the freeze-dried like instant coffee or whatever. So if you want like a decaf, any of the ones that I mentioned before on the menu of like a cortado, a café solo, café con leche, or whatever it is that you want, you can ask for descafeinado, but you want to say descafeinado de máquina or like con máquina or something, and they will make it like fresh for you. Also, yeah, iced coffee. I know that we Americans really love our iced coffee. I love a good vanilla macchiato, iced coffee, or whatever it may be. However, it's a completely different drinking experience. It's tricky because if you want an iced coffee, this is how you order it, because you can't just say like, sure, you can say like café con hielo or something like this, and that's normally how they'll give it to you. However, they will give you the coffee hot because it will be like an espresso or whatever, and then oftentimes they'll heat up the milk and then give you the hot coffee and then a glass of ice. And then it's kind of tricky because if you like sugar or whatever, then you put it in your coffee and then you have to melt it first and then pour it into the glass. And then you have to drink it really fast within a couple of minutes, or else you'll lose like the coldness before it kind of turns into a watered down sad coffee. So this is this is the iced coffee here, and so it's honestly not my favorite choice. I don't really drink sugar in my coffee anyway. Yeah, café con hielo is only good like during the summer, I guess, and it's only good if you get it with like a cortado, because like they don't give you enough ice for the café con leche to actually be really cold. It's kind of like warm at best. So I would recommend getting the cortado, which has a little bit of milk and then espresso, and then pouring it on the iced coffee, or on the ice. That is the best iced coffee that you will get in Spain. Let that be a tip for you. Number 4, I mean, I know this goes without saying, but I think that speaking Spanish in Spain goes a long way. It goes miles. It goes beyond far than you can imagine. I know that we want to just travel the world, and it's not always easy or feasible to speak every single language of the countries that we hope to visit, but I think it also pays a lot of respect to the people who live there, and just speaking a little bit of Spanish before you go there, whether that be greetings, being able to order things at a restaurant, or being able to ask for help in a grocery store or whatever. Just basic things like this, like how much is this when you're in a bakery, like cuánto cuesta esto, or qué es esto, what is this, or whatever, like easy questions that can help you like navigate really goes a long way, because like especially when you're in a new place, you're going to be asking for help all the time, and asking in English really, it doesn't put a damper on things, but people are less warm towards helping you, and oftentimes it's not because of them, they just don't understand. So it would take more effort on their part to try to not only understand you, but then also try to help you. It's like a double factor that you are asking of a stranger. And granted, people are super friendly with my experiences that I've had in Spain, but even with your broken Spanglish and like you're just trying to show effort, people are more than willing to move miles to help you get to where you need to go when you're lost in the metro. In the big cities like Barcelona, Madrid, there's a lot more English speakers who can definitely help you out. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But when you're in a smaller town, like in the heart or a field of Catalunya or whatever, in Valencia, like these areas, there's a lot of either Catalan speakers or Spanish speakers, and there's not a lot of English speakers. So it means a lot to the people to speak in the target language so that they're able to help you. So going into number 5, let's talk about pickpocketers and robbers. So this is very common, unfortunately, in Spain. However, it is not something to be like super afraid of. It's just something to be very mindful and conscious of. I, however, did lose my wallet in a metro station. I had put it in my pocket really late at night, and I did not think about it until I got home, and I could not find it. And so it's really, really unfortunate when you lose things of value. I, however, was able to order all my cards, cancel all of them, and then get new ones when I came back for Christmas break. However, like I have had so many friends have their phones stolen in ways that you just don't think about. Like, of course, don't keep things in your outer pocket. Like, people bump into you and are trained trained to take things from you. So any pockets with a zipper or whatever would really help you, and just being conscious of like who's around you in a metro station in busy cities, things like that, just keeping all your personnel like really close to you and then knowing exactly where it is at all times. But even like holding your phone out in the street, because there's like these little moto cars, like the little motorcycles that a lot of people drive. A lot of my friends have had their phones taken, like they're going shopping or whatever, and or like how you look at your phone for Google Maps when you're trying to find things or whatever, like always like face away kind of from the street, because they're on the street corner ready to cross, and then people with a moto will drive by and snag your phone, and then they're literally in a motorcycle, so you cannot catch them. They just take your phone and then take off, or they're on a bike or something like this. So just be incredibly wary of like where your valuables are. Also, like when you're out eating on the Teresa, like it's very common for people to eat outside in Spain, and the cute little tables and everything. However, there's a lot of foot traffic and there's a lot of car traffic, so be very careful of like where you put your belongings. Like don't put your purse on the back of your chair. Put everything on your lap. Don't put your phone or items on the table. Like, you know, like be smart about it. You don't have to be like super protective of all your things, but like just know where be conscious of where your things are, especially when you're at the beach. Don't leave your things unattended. I personally have not had a huge like thing happen to me where someone stole my thing in front of me and took it. But I think it's just something to be aware of, not to be necessarily afraid of. The crime in Spain is relatively low, so that's not something to be entirely too worried about, but to be conscious of. Okay, number 6. I'm sure you've heard about this, but I have to mention it because the bureaucracy in Spain is a nightmare. It is the truth. Everyone tells you this in every video. It is the truth. And what is their advice? Take care of all of your paperwork as early as you possibly can, because I mean, I was fortunate enough to go to like the embassy here in the US, but the thing is that there's only a few of them, so I had to go 3 hours away to New York City, to the consulate in New York City, and get my visa like processed and everything like that. But to get your visa appointment, your NIE, and all of the relative documents and paperwork that you need to get processed to be able to stay as a student, a resident, whatever, a work visa or whatever it is that you need once you touch ground on Spanish soil, those appointments are incredibly hard to come by, because even if you have all your documents, oftentimes it takes the average person 3 to 6 months to have the appointment to file your documents and paperwork. And sometimes, like some of my classmates, it was time for them to go back because they were only there for a 6-month program, and by the time they got their paperwork done, it was like, well, I leave next week, so was it really helpful? And so things like this is really problematic for a lot of people, and it can be a cause of a lot of stress. So I recommend try to book your appointment as soon as you land, because the website, not only to book your appointment, is kind of ancient. It's very relative to like a fast working booking appointment site. It is very difficult. And then also to put in all your information and actually get an appointment. A lot of times you'll get rejected because there just won't be appointments available. So you have to check and refresh your page every single day. Everything is incredibly slow. So you have to be very patient with the people there. Bureaucracy in the sense of like a lot of the banks and any sort of document, official, corporate sort of businesses close relatively early. Monday through Friday at 2 they close. And so if you have a regular working job, you have to really schedule appointments and try to squeeze things in. It's really quite impossible to do anything on the weekend because during the afternoons most things are closed. So then Sundays absolutely everything is closed in Spain. It's like religious. So like it's everything's closed on Sundays. Just do your best, but keep that in mind. A lot of patience and be very diligent about getting your paperwork done, because I procrastinated a little bit and it kind of bit me in the butt later. So be careful of that. Number 7, Spanish holidays. There are so many Spanish holidays, like a lot. Like I thought the US had a lot of holidays, you know, but the thing is though, we have holidays, but we still have to work. So it's like, it can be Martin Luther King Day or some random other day. And we're like, okay, yeah, woohoo, we're gonna celebrate them. Good job. Or Veterans Day or whatever. And we're like, okay, good job. But we still gotta go to work and live our lives or whatever. But no, like in Spain, there's so many holidays. Like maybe I want to say at least 4 every month or something like that, which seems like not that much, but like including like Christmas where you have the whole week off and all these other things, like, okay, yes, all that included, but like 4 days, maybe each month of something, some random holiday. And it's hard to keep track of the Spanish calendar because it's like you need to pay attention to all these random holidays because that's when everything closes. Like nothing is allowed to be open on those days. And a lot of them are kind of religious holidays. I would say that Spain is a Catholic country. However, less than half of the population consider themselves really religious. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, they're very LGBTQ like plus community like strong. Like they're very open about that. They were like one of the first countries to legalize gay marriage. However, like their love for minorities is a little bit dated, let's just say. I mean, I can have a different race related issue in Spain because that is interesting to say the least, coming from a black woman, you know, so that's just a whole nother video that we can dive deep into. So, but Spanish holidays are something to definitely keep in mind because it can affect like your day-to-day when everything's closed. Ooh, and finally, we have made it to number 8. My last thing that I wish that I knew before that I came to Spain. I'm sure that I have a couple of more, but if you want a second part to this video, leave a comment of some questions or whatever, and like I will make a new video. But the last one is to say, it sounds super silly and really obvious, but like the winters are actually really cold, like really, really, really cold. And I think that, I don't know, like when I did research or whatever about Barcelona, when I first went, like I knew that the winters would be relatively like cold, like as cold as a winter in a tropical like Mediterranean area could be, like maybe in the 50s, this is Fahrenheit people, but like maybe the 50s, the 40s, okay, so you need like a coat and like an extra sweater, maybe a scarf, and then you're legitly fine. But however, the buildings in Spain and Europe, I can't speak for all of Europe, but are incredibly old, so there's not a lot of insulation. They're like brick, so the insides are incredibly freezing. I just remember my first night in an Airbnb, my first week was absolutely freezing. And of course there's like little room space heaters or whatever, but like when you're in a big apartment or when you have the whole room to heat up, your little space heater can only warm you as much as it can warm you, because they're really into green initiatives and sustainability, but also I think practicality. There's not a lot of dryers or electric like dryers and heaters and this sort of thing. Like, so when you wash your clothes and you have to hang them either outside or on a hanging rack inside your room, it's like way too cold for it to dry. So like there'd be like 2-3 days where your clothes are really wet and really cold and you can't leave them outside because if it rains and all these things, it's just like, that is something that I just wish I knew. Like maybe that's an American privilege problem or whatever, but like literally it's just absolutely freezing. And so that took a while to get used to. Like when I first got there, I had to buy heaters and thick blankets and all these other things just to like stay warm. You have to wear a lot of socks, and like I'm not used to wearing so many coats and stuff indoors because it's just absolutely freezing. Like you're in your kitchen and you're shivering and you have to drink a lot of tea. It's like super weird to have the whole apartment or the whole building absolutely freezing. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess, like when you go, like in the winter, know it's cold and don't be shocked and come very prepared. But yeah, these are the things that I wish that I knew before I went to Spain. If you like this video, yeah, let me know, leave a thumbs up. And until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.